by James Hetfield, Lars Ulrich, Cliff Burton, and Kirk Hammett. Master of Puppets is the second song and title track on the Master of Puppets album, and one of the most iconic metal songs of all time. Let's get started. Welcome back. Once again, we have the 2017 remaster, ripped directly from CD, an enhanced bass version of that same remaster, with 8 equalizers working together to bring out the bass that's already on the song, as well as the Cliff Burton isolated bass track, and an automation lane which I used to boost, but I think didn't cut through enough without having this become obnoxious and bass in your face. At the start of the song, the audio bleeds a little bit, so I just took a swipe at that second and third hit Cliff does, so that it plays cleanly. I want to show you the first of the 2 main riffs in the song. Too good. Alright, now I want to show you what Cliff plays, because we've all heard for years what James has played. He had at least 2 rhythm guitars, maybe 4 playing it, and Cliff got the volume he got on the album. But this is what James is playing. And you can hear Cliff, kind of. I want to show you exactly what he's playing, though. This is what Cliff's playing. Kind of a primitive 3-note version, but it works, and it sounds really good, in my opinion. This is what it sounds like altogether. Now let's check out the other main riff. And there's been lots of discussion about how that's 3 measures of 4/4 and a measure of 5/8, but that's been done to death. Let's check out what Cliff plays. Not sure if you caught that, but coming off that slide, Cliff plays a quarter note before beginning the 8th notes, and he does it on purpose. It adds an element of weight and groove to the song, and he does that on other recordings like Fight Fire with Fire, Creeping Death, but you don't get to really hear it as much because of how it was mixed. This is it all together. Remember this for later. He does this twice, only. You hear those 4 octaves? Sounds pretty good. It's one of the things that is not quite as audible on the remastered version of the song. I mean, you can kind of hear it. This is one of the things I automated. He does this 4 times in the song. Let's hear the original recording. What did you just hear? Exactly. Let's hear what Cliff plays. And that's why I automated. Altogether, it sounds like this. Alright. Spoiler alert. If you don't want this song to be ruined for the rest of your life, skip this section. I'm just kidding. That's a bit dramatic. There's this noise on the recording. I'm going to play it for you real quick. When I first heard that noise, I thought it was my fault. You see all these splits here? I snagged this isolated bass track off YouTube in order to make it fit, after years of being on YouTube, with the remastered version of the song, with the drums and the guitars. The bass had to be split into many pieces and lined up. I thought, because if you don't do the splits on the line of silence, that I created that noise. That pop is on the original recording. And what it is Cliff. It's him moving his fingers across the strings and creating a little string screech. It's right there. And it's on the recording forever. Oh well. It looks like we're heading into a roller coaster on this automation lane, but it'll all make sense in a few minutes. First, I want to show you something. The first time I heard this, I was listening to the isolated bass track by itself, and I'd lost track of where I was in the song. And I realized what Cliff played here. And I said, no, he didn't, did he? And I played it back, and he played F sharp, low F sharp, over D. And it sounded like sunlight piercing through the clouds, like from heaven. Check this out. That's what he did. Now, isolated, it sounds like this. It just sounds so amazing, the way that he goes against the D with the low F sharp. And I'm sure that's harmonically that works out, the relative and the chord and whatnot. But right here, this is what it sounds like on the original recording. I wouldn't even say you can barely hear it. I can't hear it. And it sounds so good. Some of you Metallica nerds can see what I've done here and know what's about to happen next, and hats off to you. In this section, James plays F sharp to G and then goes to C, and at the tail of the riff, he goes to C sharp. At the tail of the riff, Cliff plays C natural. The two notes are neighboring notes, and together they sound very dissonant, which is a musical term for unharmonious, unpleasant, what have you. So what I did was I automated down every time Cliff plays the contrasting note. Now, on solo, Cliff sounds like this. I just took a swipe at the note. Every time they play contrasting notes. This is how the recording sounds. So to combat the unpleasantness, it would have sounded like this. Instead, it sounds like this. So I had to give the note to someone. I gave it to James since that's the note we're used to hearing, and took Cliff down a little bit on those notes. And let's just finish up with the automation lane and we'll get to the end of the song. Right here, a little bass fill going into the solo. I boosted it a little bit. Alright, and then right here is that octave tail that he does for the second time in the main guitar solo. Alright, further up the track, he does that octave tail here. Let's get closer to it. And one final time on the outro. And then right here, for some reason, I don't know if he didn't hit it hard enough, but I boosted this because you can't really hear it if you don't. All right.
Remember you complaining about him though, because you'd come into at the top of the session, he'd have one hand a beer, another hand a pipe, drink a beer, smoke, and he'd go, I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm loose now. All right, we don't want you to lose. We want it tight, goddammit.
In 1985, state-of-the-art recording studios recorded onto analog reel-to-reel cassette. You had to be rehearsed and ready because you were going to capture it live. If you punched in to correct a mistake, you finished the rest of the song from that punch. There was no edit, copy, and paste of information like there is now on digital audio workbenches. Whether or not Cliff's missing octaves was a mistake or a choice, we'll never know. Regardless of whatever, the 4 octaves that you heard in the first and second chorus will not be in this third chorus here. Now let's hear that on solo. Sounds pretty deliberate, so if he did make a mistake there, maybe he covered it up well. Or maybe he didn't play the octaves in the third chorus because that was a choice. In Season 2, Episode 2 for Ride the Lightning, the title track, I mentioned this before. I'm going to say it again for this song. The Master of Puppets title track is the most Master of Puppets song on the Master of Puppets album. It literally showcases everything the band could do in a single song. It's also the most dynamically diverse track on the album in that it can go from fast, down-picked, palm-muted, distorted aggression into clean, quiet, arpeggiated, soft sadness. James's rhythm playing on the Master of Puppets album is exceptional, and it is my opinion that for obvious reasons of the 8 songs, the rhythm guitar track for the Master of Puppets album should go to the title track, Master of Puppets. We got a double header here, but it's a big song. In my opinion, of all the lead guitar solos Kirk did on the Master of Puppets album, his lead work on this song is my pick for guitar solo of the album. So all told, the isolated bass track that I retrieved from YouTube had to be split 114 times across 8 minutes and 35 seconds, which equates to approximately one split every 4.51 seconds. And now our moment of guitar architecture. By this point, James Hetfield on rhythm guitar left and right, Lars in stereo, Cliff's bass, Kirk's lead guitar, and James's vocals in mono had become standard issue for Metallica. They didn't deviate from this. What changed on the Master of Puppets recordings was that the harmony solos that Kirk and James did together on Ride the Lightning were now all James Hetfield. Also on this album, we have Cliff Burton singing background vocals for the first time. Listen for him pan soft left. Now it's time once again for the in-album Lifeline segment, brought to you as always by Fresh Produce. No, not the brand, the concept. Eat your fruits and veggies. In this segment, I always ask the question, would I trade? If the song that I'm working on has an isolated bass track, would I trade it away for one that doesn't? And if the song that I'm working on does not have an isolated bass track, would I trade it for one that does? In the case of the Master of Puppets album, there are 8 songs, 6 of which have isolated bass tracks. The 2 that do not are Leper Messiah and Damage Incorporated. With regards to the title track, Master of Puppets, some would argue it's their best song possibly ever. That said, I would not trade it in to get an isolated bass track for Leper Messiah or Damage Incorporated, so the verdict is no, I would not trade. The Master of Puppets title track is done. The thing that should not be is next. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. This is the Metallica Re-Remastered series. Stay tuned for more. Written by James Hetfield, Lars Ulrich, Cliff Burton, and Kirk Hammett. Master of Puppets is the second song and title of